breaking bread and creating a meal out of Flavors from Abroad. What would Study Abroad Week be without that staple of an event? And then we've also just partnered with so many other, offices across campus to really bring all of these different events together.
Welcome to Being the Change, the official podcast of James Madison University, brought to you by Madison Magazine. Each episode brings you stories of how members of the JMU community combine intellect with action to live lives of purpose and meaning. That's being the change.
What's up, JMU? Andy Perrine here. Welcome to Being the Change. Today's episode is something that I think our listeners are going to really enjoy because it's about food. First of all, we all have a relationship with food, being biological units ourselves, but it has to do with the cultural impact of food. There's a program on campus called Flavors from Abroad, and it's a very unique collaboration between University Recreation, or UREC, as we say on campus, and the Center for Global Engagement, which is the organization on campus that not only sends JMU students abroad, but welcomes international students here. And it's such a unique collaboration because it's all about bringing international food experiences and cooking to students over at the UREC test kitchens. And with us, we've got 4 participants. Jessie Purcell is Assistant Director of Fitness and Nutrition from UREC. Jessie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And then from the Center for Global Engagement is Matthew Zitrich. He's the Assistant Director of Engagement and Outreach there. Welcome, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Now, we also have 2 students with us, and our analytics show us that our most popular episodes are ones that have students appearing because everybody wants to hear from students. Hannah Mayoub is a student. She's a senior. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Glad you're here. And Abby Porter is also a student.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, Abby. And you're both seniors, and you're both graduating in May.
Yes.
And you both are daunted by that.
Yes.
All right, well, to set the table, so to speak, because this is about food, let's start with Jessie. Jessie, where did Flavors from Abroad come from, and how did it take shape?
Sure. So in the past, we had partnered with CGE, the Center for Global Engagement, to put on a cooking class called Global Cuisine. It was only one time during that week, and it went so well that we decided that we wanted to continue it along and then kind of enhance that experience. Beginning Global Cuisine was just our cooking instructor choosing a certain cuisine, but now we're adding additional students and additional experiences. And so, yeah, that's kind of where it started.
And we should let our listeners know that there's actually a test kitchen over in UREC. Describe what that, does everybody have access to that? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so our demo kitchen in UREC is a unique space. It was designed with a home kitchen in mind. So if you walk in the space, while it's a little bit bigger than your typical home kitchen, you'll find a lot of our appliances and our dishes and our cookware to be something that you would find in your home. And so we use that space for a lot of nutrition and cooking education. And it's a really great space, and we hold cooking classes 6 days a week.
That's amazing. So I guess it's based on the sort of holistic view of health, which UREC is particularly good at concentrating on. So it's not only fitness, but it's also nutrition.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about it a little bit more, but nutrition is not just the food that we eat, but the experiences that we have. And so we really try to tap into that experience in our demo kitchen.
How does a different food experience influence your nutrition?
Yeah, so I think if we look back on holidays, we can think of holidays, and we always think about our favorite cookie or different things like that. And so when we talk about nutrition, a lot of people think it's just the food that we consume, but it's also the memories that surround it. It's the experiences that we have. It's the family and friends that we have around it. And so we do try to embody that holistic view of nutrition in our demo kitchen, not just the nutritional benefits of the food that we consume.
Okay, so now we know from the UREC perspective how this came to be. Matthew from the Center for Global Engagement, this collaboration is so unexpected, but also just seemingly so natural. From your perspective at the Center for Global Engagement, what's the value of this for our students?
Yeah, and I have to do my due diligence and give credit to those who really helped to establish this program. So credit to my colleague, Erin Smith, whose husband, Trey, also works over at UREC.
Oh, cool.
I think, she played such an integral part along with Jesse in launching this. So as Jesse already highlighted, there was already kind of a pre-established relationship and collaboration already taking place. From CGE's side of things, though, we see UREC as one of the entities here on campus that really does a fantastic job of tapping into the entire student body. And we wanted to be a part of that as well. And so they were already
kind of like the Center for Global Engagement is the same approach.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
We're all working with the greater body of the students here at JMU. It doesn't matter what your ethnic background is, what your age is. You're welcome to take part in both of our programming opportunities that we have. And so we saw that they were offering up these opportunities within their demonstration kitchen, and again thought, food is such an integral part of travel, and it's an integral part of that experience when you're going abroad. So how can we, tie that in with our mission at the CGE, which is to create these global experiences, not only for students abroad, but also here on campus.
I think food is the main reason I travel.
Yeah, and I think it's the reason why students tend to attend a lot of our events is because we always have food available at them, right?
Yeah. I've heard that.
Yes, yeah. But so, yeah, we saw UREC doing, a lot of great things over there, particularly with their kitchen, and wanted to, have programming opportunities along with them.
And so the Center for Global Engagement brings the sort of broader ethnic and international opportunities to the kitchen in a way that UREC might not have been able to accomplish.
If UREC is bringing in, all of the food and cooking utensils, I like to say that we're the spice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, one of the ways that I was made aware of Flavors from Abroad was by an article that was written about an experience that, Hannah, you were part of, and it was cooking an Egyptian dish with some fellow students. So describe for us how that transpired and what the feeling was like in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I was initially inspired to cook hashwaushi, which is an Egyptian dish using a pita and stuffing it with ground beef and adding a lot of spices into it.
It's a street food, right?
It is a street food, yeah. And it's actually not one that I ate myself when I was in Egypt. My best friend studied abroad in Egypt for a semester at the American University in Cairo. And when she came back, she could not stop talking about the food, and she got super into cooking Egyptian dishes for us, me and my roommates. And I think obviously one of the beauties of studying abroad is the fact that after you study abroad and after you see a part of the world you've never seen before, you come back and you share that experience with the people around you and the people that you love. And one of the easiest ways to do that is through food. And so that really inspired me to say, this stood out to her, and this is something accessible that we can share with people from Egypt. And I decided when we had a lot of freedom in choosing what we wanted to cook for everyone as global ambassadors for CGE, I immediately thought of hashwaushi because it just seems like, a great way of sharing the culture and a really accessible way of enjoying something that they might not have seen for themselves in person.
Well, and the aroma of hashwaushi is quite pungent. So I'm guessing the kitchen really got everybody excited as you started cooking, right?
Yeah, the smell of the spices was definitely, people got excited about it before we'd even started eating it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, describe the sense of, when you're cooking together, it's an activity that requires your attention, but you're still also free to have conversation, and you're not looking at your phone unless it's checking the recipe. Describe for me how it felt to be with your fellow students endeavoring in this group activity to make something that was going to be delicious.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the public speaking aspect of it and sitting at the front of the kitchen and sort of telling everyone what to do, it's a very much, at CGE, a lot of what I do is public speaking and giving speeches and presentations and things.
We should let listeners know that you're a global ambassador.
I am a global ambassador,
Right.
So a lot of what I do basically is going to prospective student events and giving speeches about study abroad and my experience. And a lot of times I like to bring my culture into it. So it was familiar in that sense, but it was a lot of, pretending you know what you're doing until you actually start knowing what you're doing. So it was a lot of just having conversations and answering questions from people, since they wanted to know a lot about the Arab world specifically. Right. Since, my background, I'm from Yemen and from Ethiopia. And so I bring like that authentic background myself, but also the fact that I'm cooking something from Egypt. There were a lot of questions they wanted to answer, some things they didn't know. Like a lot of them said that they'd never eaten Arab food before. And then I asked them, wait, have you had the falafel from Lower D Hall? And they were like, oh, well, absolutely. Yeah. And I was like, have you had the hummus from D Hall? And they were like, yeah, totally. And I'm like, you've had Arab food before. So it's an educational experience. But more than that, it's just the ease and the free-flowing conversation that I think really got us into a groove with the cooking and the talking. And it was just a really fun experience.
That's awesome. Well, and Abby, you've taught too, and you just taught the other day, right?
Yes, I did. It was a class from Scotland, actually. So we made shortbread cookies and chicken tikka masala, which kind of seems a little unconventional.
Isn't
maybe
that
for
Indian?
Scotland.
You didn't make haggis?
But we really shared, and the CG ambassador as well, that Indian food has such a big influence on the Scottish lifestyle. And throughout the classes, we really like to go that extra step to educate on things like maybe not the most common foods in the area, but ones that you would particularly find in that country.
Well, I've spent some time in London, and the best food in London is Indian food.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
not English food, I promise you. Well, describe for our listeners how what was that experience like, and I bet it was strange at first to be cooking Indian food to understand Scottish life.
Yeah, for sure. But I really like to also kind of learn from the students as well during these classes. One of the questions that I'll ask at the beginning of the class is what country they've traveled to that was their favorite, or where is somewhere on their bucket list. And so that really prompts a lot of conversation, and also I get to hear from student experiences as well, and kind of their family cultures or where they've traveled and the food that they've experienced. So I also feel like I really have learned a lot from the students that are taking the class as well, and really just their interest in travel and cuisine and just experiencing different cultures as well.
Hannah described herself as standing at the head of the kitchen and pretending she knew what she was talking about, which, Hannah, I'm in my mid-60s and I still pretend I know what I'm talking about.
Everyone does.
Don't worry about that. Describe for us, Abby, the feeling of the group as you moved through the recipe and got the cooking together. People were stretching themselves. You were stretching yourself, and your fellow students were stretching yourselves. How does that make you feel at the end?
I always feel a real sense of like gratitude and ease at the end of these classes. Cool. I feel like I come out of them feeling like I've learned more than even I've taught the students around me.
Cool. Yeah.
And it really just is. Usually students come in and they're a little bit timid and shy, but I really try and break that as much as possible in the beginning of the classes. Like, we'll play music from whatever country we're cooking in, really just to make it an exciting opportunity for the students. And I really feel like I leave these classes feeling like I've learned so much more, even from the CGE ambassadors as well. And it's just been a really great opportunity.
Well, they say you never learn better than when you teach somebody something,
exactly.
right? Yeah. Well, did you play Scottish music or Indian music?
We played Scottish music.
Okay, all right. So, Matthew, the way that the students here are describing the experience in the room, this is kind of the essence of what global experiences are supposed to be like, right? You're supposed to discover new things and challenge yourself to new experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, for travel, for students who have never done it before, it can be such a daunting thing to undertake, right? And so creating these types, again, as I talked about earlier, creating these global opportunities here at home on JMU's campus, I think it starts to really establish that sense of community that students really, linger for before they ever go abroad. And so, for me, like, main points about this program and just creating that sense of community, is really meeting students where they're at. And so like Henna was talking about, she presented, this dish of something that she never even had in Egypt, but was able to take the time, do the research, and I imagine presented it in the best way that it could have been done. I have that full faith in Henna for sure. And so we do that exactly with students. It's just meeting them where they're at, answering their questions, and then kind of, continuing that journey from there.
Because you can have an international experience without getting on a plane.
You can. I mean, we have such a diverse community right here at JMU, and you talked about it. Part of the CGE isn't just sending students abroad; it's also bringing them here. And so that's something that we're really trying to promote here on campus is that sense of community for both our U.S. students, but also the students who are coming from elsewhere.
And it seems to me also that I'm a big fan of the International Festival in Harrisonburg, mainly because everybody brings dishes from their homeland, and the pride with which they present it, and the curiosity with which people approach it. It seems to humanize people that you might not never had any experience knowing. Henna, did you? I mean, you were teaching about Arabic food, and you're Yemeni and Ethiopian. What kind of feeling of humanity did the students respond to you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our conversations ended up driving into Arab culture oftentimes. And I told a lot of students that a lot of people don't know that Harrisonburg is actually a refugee town for a lot of people from Iraq and from Kurdistan and all of those places.
Yeah, we're a Church World Service community. And in Harrisonburg City Schools, there's over 70 languages spoken, which is second only to Arlington, which you would be surprised to learn that this small town in Western Virginia is that international.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the way a lot of students engage with diversity, especially at JMU, is it does tend to be a little bit limited since JMU is not, the most diverse school in Virginia. But I think the ability of us to platform those conversations through something like Stories from Abroad and through international travel and through learning cultural humility through genuine conversations and through being in the UREC kitchen and talking about Arab food versus Scottish food versus Indian food, it's extremely powerful. And so seeing a lot of students firsthand as I, just instructed them to, chop the garlic and mix up the spices and all of that, as they sort of came to terms with that, it was just a really beautiful thing to see. And it really came extremely naturally. People are wired for education like this.
Yeah. The term cultural humility is quite interesting. And, I'd like to hear from all of you. It seems to me, as somebody who's been abroad a good bit, and I'm a fan of Mark Twain, and he said one of the things that will get rid of prejudice is travel. And so achieving cultural humility is a really interesting learning outcome. Did you see that taking place in the room?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the story that I sort of mentioned earlier where people were like, oh yeah, I've never really had Arab food before. And then we talked about hummus and we talked about falafel and all of these foods that they've certainly had before. It was, people, again, they're wired for this. That understanding and that ability to learn about a culture and learn how to learn about a culture is something that can come naturally to students if we're able to have those conversations and make partnerships between CGE and with UREC. It's a lot more natural, like you said, than it seems like it would be. So just... yeah, the ability for CGE and for UREC to come together to have those conversations and to invite students into those conversations and make it such a welcoming, warm space was an amazing thing to watch and to be a part of.
We're talking about the humanity that we discover that we all share when we're eating cuisine from a different country. The other thing that students are experiencing is that we're all in human physical bodies, right? And Jesse, as you're not only a nutritionist, but you're a fitness expert. How does this tie into our corporeal realities as people that, Ethiopians have the same DNA that other humans have, and learning that kind of thing about each other and about our physical states, to me, is such a value add to this program. As somebody who thinks about this all the time, about our existence as physical beings, tease out what Hannah was saying about how this this humility can arrive with these kinds of experiences.
Right. Well, at UREC and in kind of all the spaces that we have at UREC, we're really intentional about creating safe spaces for them, whether it's in the fitness center, whether it's on a basketball court, but that also applies to the demonstration kitchen as well. A lot of our students and our participants might come in and they've never held a knife before, they've never chopped a vegetable before, and then layer that on, they've never traveled outside of their state or outside of their country. We want to create that safe space so that they can ask the brave and hard questions that they've never been asked before, and they can try to chop some garlic and, put it in a recipe that may or may not turn out really great.
But knife skills are the basics.
Knife skills are the basics. We do make sure that, no chopping of the fingertips or anything like that. And Abby and our staff do a really great job with that. But, in providing those safe spaces where they can be inquisitive and they can learn and they can ask those questions, I think really can broaden their experience and then also broaden their perspective as well. And like you said, we can start to dismantle some of those walls that we have, whether it's prejudices or whether it's preconceived notions about food, about fitness, or about culture as well. And so, food speaks a whole lot of volumes, and it really
without saying a word.
Right, exactly. And it really breaks down those walls. So, I'm just really thankful to be part of this partnership and kind of provide those opportunities.
Abby, when you're teaching, can you see it in the faces of the students you're teaching when they're kind of breaking through?
Yes, you definitely see them light up more and more, especially as the recipe comes together, as we start sharing more about our experiences. I also did a study abroad program in Spain, so kind of being able to bring my own perspective as well.
You're in Salamanca.
In Valencia.
Valencia,
Spain, actually,
okay,
yes.
Cool.
But, and also just to really harp on the fact that also this isn't just about the food, we're also sharing a meal together and also getting to learn about a new place. So that has just been a really awesome opportunity.
The breaking of bread. What's the Ethiopian bread called? The spongy bread?
Injera.
Injera.
Yes.
I've had that before.
It's amazing, and I think about it every day. I miss it every time I'm not home.
You can get it up at Food Max. Did you know that?
I did not know that, and I will be going to Food Max after we finish recording.
This is not a plug for Food Max, listeners. Well, this is all so fascinating, and it's also incredibly well timed. This podcast is airing during the week of Study Abroad Week, and there's a lot of experiences on campus for students to get to encounter cultures that they may not have. Matthew, what can students expect during Study Abroad Week?
Yeah, Study Abroad Week has had a full, slate of events that really reach a large student audience. There's really something for everyone. And so students have had the opportunity just to learn about study abroad in general, the kickstarting that experience and really needing to know the things that you want to know before you go abroad.
And sparking the curiosity to begin with. Right.
And learning about, the 100+ programs that we have to offer here at JMU, which to me, before I ever came here, it was unfathomable to think that a small team could muster up that many programs to begin with. They've also had chances to learn about not just studying abroad, but, interning abroad. And so we have awesome international experiences for students to gain those, real work-based learning experiences in places like Valencia. And so they've had those opportunities as well. Of course, breaking bread and creating a meal out of flavors from abroad. What would Study Abroad Week be without that staple of an event? And then we've also just partnered with so many other, offices across campus to really bring all of these different events together. And then, all of it kind of comes to a culmination right at the end of the week, where we actually invite students who have studied abroad, like Henna herself, to share short form stories, 3 to 5 minutes, just about these type of unique experiences that you've had a chance to just hear small sample sizes of today.
That's amazing. And I know that the Center for Global Engagement trades in a lot of food to get people to come to events, but also expose them to international experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah. So not only will you get the opportunity or had the opportunity to make food, we've also provided some really unique ethnic cuisine.
Hannah, what are you going to say when you describe your study abroad experience?
When I describe, my story for study.
Yes, your story.
Yeah, so I've actually studied abroad 3 times, I think.
Can't get enough, huh?
It cannot get enough, yeah. But the story that I usually tell is from when I studied abroad at a conference in Indonesia. And it was a 10-day conference for international students. And so there were students from all over the world representing every continent except Antarctica. And I speak about what it means for me as someone with a dual identity, hyphenated identity, American, as you might say, studying abroad and discovering what it meant to be an American and to be a Yemeni and to be Arab in a new place. Since a lot of times we measure our identities as relative to someone else's or relative to a dominant culture. And so when you go to a new place, it really challenges the way you understand yourself as something relative to other people. So understanding your place in the world is really essential part of studying abroad, and being able to find yourself and come back as someone that is a lot more comfortable in their own skin and with their own identity is something very powerful and something that I like to highlight when I'm giving that speech and those story presentations while I work for CGE.
Yeah, well, as a white guy in his 60s, I'm often not the other. And being in places where I am the other is a mind-blowing experience, right?
Yes. I mean, studying abroad really changes you that way, since it makes you, realize the extent to which you identify yourself relative to other people.
Right.
So finding yourself and learning how to stand on your own 2 feet and be grounded, and also understand that your place in the world is a lot bigger and also a lot smaller than you thought it could be is a really beautiful thing to learn.
That's amazing. Well, what's next for this program? The Flavors from Abroad.
What's next for this program? We're excited to continue it into next year and grow it, possibly add different experiences in different areas there. We do a lot of different post-class surveys, and we love to hear what students have to say, making sure that we're hitting on all of our learning outcomes, but also getting some of that qualitative data, what they might be missing or what they really value from that program. So at the end of each year and the end of each semester, we evaluate that and then try to shape that experience so that we can meet them where they're at.
That's cool. Well, our 2 seniors, Abby, what's next for you?
I will hopefully be attending, getting a second bachelor's for nursing and hopefully becoming a travel nurse later to kind of harp on that love of travel.
Right.
And then I'll also be cooking a lot in my free time once I leave UREC.
That's amazing. Hannah, what's next for you?
I recently got accepted into a few PhD programs, so I'm making a decision as to which one I'm going to pursue. I'm leaning towards one in New York City, like we talked about before we got on air.
What will you be studying?
Psychology.
Wow.
I want to be a social psychologist and a professor, hopefully.
That's amazing.
I love the academic environment.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Well, I really want to thank you, Jesse Purcell, Matthew Zitrich, Hannah Mayub, and Abby Porter. It's been such a great conversation, and thank you for bringing your experiences here.
Thank you for having us.
And remember, listeners, if you've got an idea for an episode or you just want to be in touch, you can reach us at beingthechange@jmu.edu. Until next time, go Dukes.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe to hear more stories about how members of the JMU community are being the change. Dive deeper and explore countless other stories at jmu.edu/Madison Magazine. Go Dukes!
The Being the Change podcast was conceived by Jim Heffernan, editor of Madison Magazine, and me, Andy Perrine, head of JMU Marketing. Thanks to Jenna Polk and her team at the Rose Library Studios, where the show is recorded by Cody Troyer, Steve Adderton, and Olive Santos, all of the crazy talented JMU photo video team, who then produced the final episodes at the Ice House in downtown Harrisonburg. Original music by 2019 alumnus Neil Perrine. You can find the Being the Change podcast on all the popular platforms where we hope you'll like, share, and subscribe.